Hey, good morning, Daniel. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm fine.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share. I know you and your team bring a very unique um, uh, perspective of everything that's happening in Ukraine. And so, before we even dive into any of that, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you ended up in Ukraine?
Okay, thank you very much. It's a privilege and my pleasure to be with you this morning. And basically, my name is Oyesanya Daniel Oluwashola. I'm from Nigeria and Ogun State, part of Nigeria. That's the state in Nigeria, and that's where I was born. And I grew up in Ogun State. So I studied to secondary level in Nigeria. I studied nursing in Nigeria. Then in 2015, that's when I came to Ukraine to study medicine. And when I got to Ukraine 2015, I finished 2021 medicine and I registered for a master's course on computer and all that. So that was when the situation started.
Wow. So you're from Nigeria.
Yes.
You studied there initially, made it to
Hmm.
Ukraine,
Yes.
where you studied medicine, and now you were starting kind of your master's work
Yes.
in Ukraine. And so, how many were in your group?
In our group totally were 23.
23?
23 at first, yeah.
23 at first. Okay. All right. And so you're studying there in Ukraine and probably just doing the educational life, the
Yeah.
student life. And then here comes the 24th of February.
Yes.
Before we even dive into the 24th, what was your perspective as you were seeing and hearing kind of what was happening around the border of Russia and Ukraine? What was your perspective? Did you think anything was going to happen, or did
Okay.
you kind of?
Okay. I at first when I came 2015 to Ukraine, when I got to Ukraine 2015, I heard about the Russia Ukraine issues that they were already having issues around the border. So it's like a norm. So we were not expecting anything more than that because there's always this eat up issues around the border. Okay, they want this part of the territory and all that. So we weren't expecting anything different from normal. So until 24th of February, where the story changed.
And so, what happened on the 24th of February? Where were you and your team?
Okay. In fact, 24th of February, myself, I was in my apartment in Ukraine, Ternopil, but some of them stay in the hostel, some other people stay in their own apartment also. But that morning, I remember I was I didn't sleep over the night. I was doing some studies and I was, trying to be awake. So I was at 5 a.m. or so. I heard like a siren from outside, but I didn't really pay attention because I thought it was just anybody could make a sound or something. So it was when it was 6 a.m. in the morning, I got the news that Russia just striked in eastern part of Ukraine because where I stay in Ukraine is the western part. So, and that was the reason why the siren was out there. So I was shocked and I wanted to say my prayer that morning, but it was difficult because I couldn't have my peace again. So I was just like, oh God, what is this? So I checked the news. I saw the strike in at Kyiv, the capital city, and some other places like Kharkov city and all that. So that was where it started. So I spoke with other members of the team. Some of them were already crying. Some were fidgeting. Of course, as one of the eldest among them, I had to encourage them. I had to speak with them to make sure they are fine and to make sure they are, they just to give them hope that we're not going to die here. Don't worry, everything is okay. So yeah, I spoke with them, and at the long run, we couldn't leave that day 24th. We're in Ukraine till 28th. We left Ukraine 27, 28. I'm not sure exactly, but when we spent about 2 days after the issue, because I remember the night of the of 24th, another siren came up. So we're told already, and we're given some map where we could hide ourselves in some underground shellings and all that. So one was close to my house. Every other individuals, my group mate, they also were able to find theirs, and also so when the alarm rings that way, you go under there. It's when they ring the alarm generally when they detect that there's like a airstrike or something. So you can hide and you don't die and you prevent yourself from dying. So we had to run under the place. I had to call others that are with me. Hello, are you currently on that ground? Make sure you keep safe and all that. So on the 26th night, that's when I spoke with them and I told them that, okay, because some of their parents want them to leave Ukraine already. And there's no way we could fly out with airplanes and all that because the whole airport situation has been closed down. So we got a bus. I spoke with the bus driver where we got a bus of about 50 seaters. Yeah, 50 seaters. So, and I also make a group call with them and I told them that they should pack their things, try to travel light, and let's try to move out. Just pick things that are important to you, like a certificate and all that. So, in the morning, we got to the meeting point. Yeah, when we got to the meeting point, the driver didn't come early that I expected. It's supposed to come around 9 o'clock, but it came around almost 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So, the driver came. So, we all entered into the bus, and there are other people who also joined us because we have enough space also. So we were able to take other people. We were about 50, 55 total. And we had to pay huge amounts of money. Of course, it was a lot of money because the driver didn't make it cheap because at that time he knew that we didn't have any other option. So it was quite expensive. So we entered, then we drove down to Chernovitsi. Chernovitsi is the last city in Ukraine that is bordering Romania. So when we got there, he dropped us just after the city a little bit because we couldn't get to the border because there were a lot of traffic. A lot of people want to move out of the place. So we had to walk for about 2-3 hours. So with our bags and all that. In fact, some of my colleagues had to throw away their bag because they were tired already. They couldn't move or they couldn't walk faster. And so when we got to the border at first, the place was full. In fact, that some people, the soldiers, they were not attending to us as they should. And a lot of people from India, from different people were there. And I remember one Indian guy was trying to have some issues with them. Why are you not letting us go in and all that and all that? So they shot the gun up to scare people away from the entrance of the border because we're a lot. And after that, we waited there. At least I was at the border for about 2 days. For 2 days. Yeah, 48 hours or even more. Because I slept at the border the first day. Then the second day I didn't sleep there. I had to walk. Even the second day we were there. So it was the third day early in the morning, 6 a.m. also. That's on the third day. That's when we were able to enter with my colleague. Though some of my colleague entered after 24 hours, about 4 or 6 of them, because they didn't allow us to enter as a group. So we had to enter like two. Sometimes after 4 hours again, they allow another set of people to enter. So it was not all the same. But I was part of the last set of people that entered that morning because I had to wait for everybody to cross over because I don't want to get into Romania and having to call somebody, oh, you are still behind. Oh, what are we going to do now? So I have to just stay for all of them to go. Then I moved with the last batch into Romania. So from Romania,
wow,
that's how we were able to cross. Yes.
So let me just recap that just for the listeners a little bit and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. Mm-hmm. So the 24th, you hear the sirens going off. You're saying, whoa, is this for real? Is this not for real? Then you realize a few hours later, this is real because everyone is talking about it.
Exactly.
They're probably showing images on TV. Mm-hmm. You know, you can check your web and see, oh, they're under attack. Mm-hmm. And then that starts your journey. 27th is when you actually get that bus, 27th, 28th. Mm-hmm. What's amazing is the story you just shared. I've heard so many times, you know, people getting to that border and it taking days to cross that border, especially during those early times, because, you know, you had people in panic. No one really knew, you know, was it going to just stay to the east? Was it going to start coming west? And so everyone was just kind of making a surge towards Poland, Moldova, Romania. And so I've heard that story a lot of people having to wait. And we actually have some folks with our team down in Moldova on the border down there. And I've seen pictures from that. And it's heartbreaking to see families and children. And, you know, obviously anyone that has to wait because you don't know, there's ambiguity going on. You don't know what's going to happen. And then, you know, so that's an amazing story. And so not only are you trying to get across yourself, but being kind of the team leader, now you're having to shepherd others across and make sure they make it across safely before you
Exactly.
can go across.
Yeah.
So, what kind of, as a leader, what was kind of going through your mind as the leader, a leader of the group? What was in your mind? Were you? I mean, obviously, you were thinking about their well-being. You're responsible. You said you had parents calling saying, "I want
Mhm,
my
mhm.
my student home now," and you can't get on an airplane. What was
Mhm.
going through your mind as a leader?
Yeah, actually, it was for me personally. It was a very difficult time for me. Though of course, it was important for me to act strong because of them. Because if I decide to break down, it will be very difficult for them. Because some of them were already down, they were already crying. Some of them were acting different ways. But I just felt like at that point, the only thing I could do was just to pray. That I just needed this strength from inside. That I just wanted God to give me strength. And how God did it, I can't really explain. But I know that I was strong from inside of me. I was not panicking. Even at the border where when things were happening, I remember the first day at night, it was snowing for a long hours. And of course, in Ukraine, the snow is very, 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 it's a lot. And we were there inside the snow because there was nowhere to stay. We had to stay under the snow. My legs, in fact, I had so many injuries on my leg because my shoes, everything was just having issues. So, but at that point, I just knew that I was more concerned about others because then I was just thinking about God, just help us to cross over. I don't want to lose anybody because I encouraged them. I told them that one of the things I'm sure is that we're not going to lose anybody. Don't worry, you're going to be fine. And they were all happy, of course, because I'm a funny person. I try to make jokes at times with them so we could laugh, we could have a discussion so that they can think that off their head and they can concentrate on something else. And yeah, I believe that's how we're able to keep
That's
everything
it.
safe.
That's interesting because as a leader, we find ourselves in that place a lot of times where we have to be strong because of the situation we're
Yeah.
in, but deep down inside, we're relying on our faith, we're
Yeah.
relying on God, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just as concerned as probably some of the people we're leading,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but we have to demonstrate that strength to help keep people's heads held
Mm-hmm.
high and keep them moving.
Yeah.
Um, because that's what's required of a leader, right? And
Exactly.
so I commend you for being able to control
Mm-hmm.
your emotions and your as you're going through that challenging time. um, and grateful that you were able to get everyone across safely and you
Mm-hmm.
kept your word. Your
Yeah.
word was, we're not going to die here. No one's going to die here. And so you've kept your word and everyone's there. So let's fast forward just a little bit. So you get to Romania, you cross into Romania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, when you crossed into Romania, did you know anyone? Did you have a clue about where you were going to go next? Um, or were you just kind of like, all right, well, we're in Romania now. Uh, Tell me about that.
Okay. I said earlier that about a couple of them entered into Romania before myself. So none of us we didn't know anybody in Romania. I've never been to Romania before. I don't have any Romania friend. I don't have anybody. But when I got to Romania, when we crossed the border, there were already buses waiting for us, like bigger buses that need to take us from there to the capital city. But so I spoke with one of those that crossed earlier. She told me that they met with somebody who kept put them in an hotel for a day or two so that they can also find their way to the capital. So I said, okay. So they were around the Suceava region of Romania. So when I called them, also I had to hook up with them. So they took us to a place like a mini hotel where we were to sleep that night. But the place wasn't so conducive for us because it was it was not so good enough for us as we would have wanted it. And because we're a lot, there's no way we could have managed it. So we spoke with the man. Then later, he took us to like a college around Piachanem, one part of the still very close to Siseva too. So that's where we stayed for about 10 days. Then the other ladies that went ahead of us to also join us there. So we're there for 10 days. Yeah, that's the way we
Got
were.
it. So there for 10 days. And now,
Mhm,
how did you, I know that you're staying with our friend and our partner,
mhm,
Pastor George there.
mhm, yeah.
How did you connect with him? How did he find you or you find him? And
Okay.
how did that come to be?
Okay, so where the whole issue started was where when we were in the other city I was talking about. When we were there, we spent just 10 days, and the immigration there, they were giving us so much issue. And there was a church also in that prayer channel. I think the pastor is Pastor that maybe it's Tom or something. I want to remember his name. All right. So when he was the one who was encouraging us to, we attended the church one on a Sunday or Friday. I can't remember. We attended once. So after we attended the church, he encouraged us. And sometimes they come around to take us out. We mingle with them together, and they encourage us that we shouldn't worry, that God is with us, and God will definitely help us to pass through this phase. They were surprised that at that point we're not crying any longer. We're not sad, and we're also trying to mingle with them because we have to. Life goes on, so we have to move on. So from there, we had problem with immigration. The immigration in that city, they didn't want us in the city. They said no, they didn't want us to stay in their city and all that and all that. They keep calling us almost every day to come to their immigration without no reason. We told them that according to the rules that we are supposed to be able to stay in this place for at least 3 months or 90 days. But the man said no, that it's not going to happen, that that's not the rule. And I remember then we had to call the Romania immigration. They told us 90 days at that time. We called even my country. I called the Nigeria embassy. They also gave us that. So even at some point, there was a woman from the church there. From the church we were attending there was a lawyer too there in that church. There was also a woman that followed us to the immigration office. So they said both of them. They also called the immigration at the border where we entered from. They also told them 90 days. But it was obvious that the immigration people in that city, they don't want us. So that same day, they were asked to leave the college. They took us to like a cabin, or I don't know how to explain, but it's just like, it's not a house, but it was built with like a wooden something like that. It's like a cabin. So we're there, and he told us that that's where we're going to be, like an outskirt. It's like outskirt of the city. People don't really stay there. So when we got there, after 20 after 20 hours there, after they told us we'll be able to stay there for some days or a month or so, they told us that no, we can't stay any longer, that the government or something, or I don't know, they told us we have to leave that night, the following night. And it
Oh,
was very, very difficult for us. We didn't even know what to do. We had to book a ticket or train ticket going to Bucharest, that's the capital city. Yeah, all through this period, the church people, they were with us, they were encouraging us, they were trying their best to make sure to bring information from Bucharest, and also to let them know that we can stay in the country and all that. But there was a particular man in the immigration office. It was the major issue. Every other person was calm, but he's like he didn't want to see us at all. I don't know, maybe the racist. Of course, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that that was the experience we had there. So moving from the PHNM, we had to travel for about 10, 12 hours, I think, maybe 10 hours to Bucharest. So we go to Bucharest on the 20, that's on the first of March. That should be, no, not, sorry. That should be around 12th of March, because it's 10 days, 12th of March. It was on a Saturday. We got to Bucharest that morning. Then the Nigerian embassy agent came to pick us from the train station to lodge us in a hotel. But there was no space in almost all the hotels again. There was nowhere we could stay. In fact, they got only about 6 rooms, and we're 23 at that time. So there was no hope for us. We were outside in front of the hotel for long hours because there was nothing we could do. But thank God to the pastor from PHNM that was keeping up with me and was chatting me up. Oh, how are you doing? Have you got to a place? I said, not really. We are just outside here, hoping that we're waiting outside, hoping that people will log out of the hotel, then we can take a space. That's why we are simply outside. And some people had to take the 6 rooms because everybody was tired. Everybody needed to sleep. Everybody needed rest. We needed to eat something. We were on everything was wrong. So I said, okay, this is what we could do. And the hotel people gave us opportunity, or the opportunity to put more people in one room, at least maybe 3 people in just a room, so that people can rest. So I told them they should go inside. So most of them went in, and few of us, at least the more matured ones, to stay outside and let's just wait. We could endure that. And at some point, we're feeling sleepy. We just have to place our heads on our bags and all that. So Fortunately, the pastor from Prayer Channel, they now call Pastor George. So when he called Pastor George in Bucharest, Pastor George would pick the call and then he shared the contact with me. So Pastor George told us that he could get a place for us, that since we don't have anywhere to stay. So he got a place for us, that we are here currently, and we are still here for since March, 12th of March we have been there. And yeah, they have really, really done a lot of things for us. They have provided not just accommodation, they have shared their stuffs with us, both in terms of food, in terms of clothing, in terms of money. In fact, they've shared their love with us. So we're not enduring staying here. They are really wonderful people. Yeah, I know, of course, I've never met him before, and the kind of way he has decided to show his love, and even member of the church, it's something very, very commendable, I must say. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, that's one thing. If we could have a quick brag on Pastor George, that's one thing I love about him is his heart to serve his community and really people as a whole. And he's got that smile and that
Yeah,
kind of that presence that kind of draws you in, and
exactly.
and so I am, and I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about how better for the church to show love than to provide for someone's basic needs, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so often we feel like it has to be this, big thing, but in this situation, here's a church who's just saying, "How can I serve you? How can I help you? You need a place to rest? We've got a place to rest. You need food? Let us feed you." And that's really what the church is all about, is helping people get back on in some cases their feet, or find rest, and then ultimately through that they see the power of Christ. So I'm so happy that you guys were able to find him, and and that he's been able to take good care of you guys. I saw a picture of you guys. You were sitting in the little dining area eating,
yeah.
and someone was making a funny face at the camera. I remember that. Might have been you. Anyway, that was right before the last time I was in Romania.
Oh,
Before we flew out of Bucharest, uh, we were at Pastor George's church, and
mm.
we were all sitting at that same table eating a
Ah,
meal together. And we had that right before we had to head over to the airport and get ready for our flight out the next day.
ah,
And so it was just such an amazing memory of, I've been at that same table that you were at, and eating amongst his team and with him. Our
mm,
team did too. So
mm.
what Daniel, let me ask you this. So what's next? I mean, I know you probably don't have everything all figured out, but what are you guys trying to get back to Nigeria?
Yeah, currently, because when we came to Bucharest, what we had in mind at first, we didn't know what to do exactly, but we just needed a place to stay first so that we can at least rest a little bit and then know what next. Because at that time, we're thinking, okay, the war won't last maybe more than a few weeks or a month. So from there, we could just maybe go back to Ukraine to finish our studies, because most people don't want to travel back to Africa, then come back again after a month or two to come and
Right.
continue their study. So that's why we're here. But currently we are just 19 here, because the two people went to Germany. No, yeah, three people went to Germany. Then one other person also went to Netherlands because of their family members of people they know there. So they had to move there too with them. But we are still here. So currently we're just thinking of some are thinking of how to transfer maybe to a Romanian school if possible, while we are still using one other eye to wait for Ukraine to finish their war, because sometimes as medical students it's not very easy for us to transfer into another school just like that, because of so
Right.
many reasons, their standard and the same um the way the system of the school and our school is. All those things need to be and you need to get your transcripts, some of the certificate are in school, like our O-level certificate. So there are so many things involved. But currently,
Right.
maybe personally, I am thinking if I could maybe if I could still get something to do, I can still stay a little bit longer or probably go to Africa. But one of the problem we're facing currently is because I feel like I don't want to leave without others making good decisions, so that If they
Right.
don't make decision, they will not be stranded, and they will not just maybe have to be worried because some there's a way people put their maybe not their faith in you because you're not God, but uh they are looking at you to help them make some decisions. So you have to sit with them. Okay, what do you want to do? This. Okay, let's try this out. Let's get information about this to make sure everybody is moving at the same pace rather than some people already ahead of them. So I think that's where we are currently.
So it goes back to that leadership thing we talked about earlier. People are still looking to you to be the leader, and there's an obligation that you feel
Mhm,
to help them try to be safe, of course, number one.
mhm.
Number two, have a plan of action. Um, and are you guys studying it all now?
Currently, the school in Ukraine is still offering their courses online. So
Wow.
almost everybody, we are still having our online classes. In fact, today, almost everybody have their class today. So we're still doing online classes. So that's one is still helping us to move forward. And, we had to put so many things in place and all that for the classes, because of the devices. Some people didn't come with their laptop, but now everything is a little bit balanced, at least to be able to have our classes. Yeah.
Nice. And so what you're saying is even in the middle of war, you still have homework.
Yes.
Got it. Well, let me kind of as a last question to you. This is really from your perspective. Coming from Africa, seeing everything that's happened in Ukraine, now being in Romania and Bucharest. What is the greatest need you see in for the Ukrainian people? As you, I'm sure you had made some friends in Ukraine because you'd been over there for a while. And as you're hearing these stories, as you're seeing these images, as you yourself experience some of these stories and images as you left, what do you feel like the greatest need? If you were talking to someone here in the United States, I'm in Dallas, Texas. Um, what would you tell me? Something I could tangibly do, something I personally could do, or my neighbor could do to help. What would you say you see their greatest needs being right now?
Okay. For I believe for people in Ukraine, because some of them are still in Ukraine, while some are out of Ukraine because some people didn't leave Ukraine. I spoke with some people, or I was able to get information. Some people are still in Ukraine. They decide not to leave because of course they need to protect their country and all that. But basically, for those that are out of Ukraine now, I believe their basic need first is accommodation and a proper like shelter or proper and feeding and all that because the truth is that either we believe it or not, there are still people in this age that we are that don't feel the need to help human beings like them. And I believe wherever they are now, some of them are still stranded. Some of them need a place. So that I'll just encourage people or beg people to try as much as possible that anyone could find themselves in such situation and try to open your arms to assist as much people you can assist as God has blessed you to do. Because some of them need help. Why some of them, yes, I know they've settled down somewhere, but I believe some of them still need help. But for those that are in Ukraine, they don't plan to move out, and I believe that they are only fighting for their country, which is very important because everybody cannot eventually leave when you truly look at the state of the issues. And all they just need the war to stop, basically.
Yeah.
And once the war stop, I believe that they'll be fine. And those that need to move back to the country will move back and everything will go normally again.
Yeah, I think that's the prayer that everyone has for Ukraine is that that they'll find peace and they'll have their country back and they'll be able to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, every Ukrainian I've talked to thus far has said they miss home. They're
Yeah.
grateful. Don't get me wrong. They're incredibly grateful for people who have opened their
Yes.
doors,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
fed them, clothed them, given them
Mm-hmm.
shelter, but they miss home. And they said,
Definitely.
I want to go home. I want to be
Yeah.
back. I've never wanted to be back in my country so badly. And the the crazy part is there's still so much happening.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we may not see it here in the United
Mm-hmm.
States on the front page of the media anymore doesn't mean that the war is over by any means. We're still hearing reports from certain border crossings that are
Yeah.
full, and we're still receiving guests to some of our shelters, every day, and trying to help in our clinics and things like that. So, Definitely, people I think need to remember that there's still a long way to go, and then there's the rebuilding efforts that are going to have to take place. How's your university? Is your university still standing, or did it get bombed? Is it? Do you know
Yeah,
anything about that?
yeah. Currently, the university is still standing. Because as I've said earlier, that Tenopil is in the western part, and the only
Okay.
time I heard of any explosion was just once, and I think it was around the outskirts of the city. But the school is intact. I'm still in communication with some of the teachers and some of the people there. So yeah, the school, everything is still intact in
So that's
Tenopil.
good news. So if something does happen in the worst, this war stops quickly, you guys should be able to go back and continue, hopefully continue your education a little bit if the school
Mm,
is obviously
yeah,
still standing. So,
yeah.
well, I'll tell you what, Daniel, I really, really appreciate your time this
Oh,
morning.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much for sharing your story. It was nice to hear a a perspective of someone who had a different path, a different journey
Mm,
through Ukraine, yours via Africa, via Nigeria.
mm,
And
yeah.
so I really appreciate your time this morning. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Um, Basically, I believe that's all. We just personally, I also like to thank you for taking time to reach out to us, and also we believe that as time goes on, things will get better, and yeah, thank you so much.
Sean here. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a like, a follow, and a share. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, consider giving it 5 stars. I look forward to sharing the next story with you real soon.